Thank you. And I am Tony Valeri. So welcome, bienvenue. I'm here as Vice President of Corporate Affairs for ArcelorMittal Dofasco. And I want to make sure that we take the opportunity to welcome everyone appropriately. We're certainly pleased today to be able to gather in person for what I think is just an incredible announcement that we're going to make today. Having said that, we have protocols in place for today's event, which include masks. Everyone that came on site went through a screening process to keep everyone safe from COVID-19. Hard hats and safety glasses when not at the podium are required. At ArcelorMittal Dofasco and at ArcelorMittal, health and safety is our #1 objective, and that has clearly been our focus throughout the entire pandemic. And I want to just also mention that just yesterday, we marked a milestone with our ArcelorMittal Dofasco employer-led vaccine clinic that was just up the street here at the center on Barton Street. So that partnership with the City of Hamilton Public Health ensured that we were able to vaccinate about 17,500 Hamiltonians over the past 5 weeks. In fact, some folks from Toronto also came out and from other parts of the area of the GTHA. That vaccine will protect our employees, our family, our friends, as well as the community at large. We are certainly thankful to the Government of Canada for securing vaccine doses for Canadians. Nous remercions le gouvernement du Canada de s'être procuré des doses de vaccins pour les Canadiens. Merci au gouvernement du Canada. Maintenant, je veux aussi souhaiter la bienvenue à nos invités du gouvernement du Canada et souligner leur présence. The Honourable Chrystia Freeland, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. The Honourable François-Philippe Champagne, Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. The Honourable Filomena Tassi, Minister of Labour, is here with us today. And we also have with us our Minister from Burlington, which we are very happy to have joined us here today. We also have with us our ArcelorMittal Global CEO, Aditya Mittal, and our CEO here at Dofasco, Ron Bedard. And finally, our colleagues and partners that have taken the time to join us today. Despite our capacity limits, we are pleased that some media, some partners and employees are attending virtually. So thank you again for taking the time to join us. I'd like to also acknowledge the lands on which we operate. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, North America. We acknowledge that ArcelorMittal Dofasco lands are situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe to share and care for resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase 1792 between the Crown and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. ArcelorMittal Dofasco recognizes that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. So, as I said, I'm very pleased that we could have this event outside. We are close to our manufacturing operations. Behind us is our hot roll gantry yard. The coils that you see have been rolled from steel slab. In the far distance behind me, just to what I believe is your right, is our steelmaking business unit with our electric arc furnace in the front and the basic oxygen furnace in behind. Also behind us, and just to the side here to your left, is our hot mill, where more than 4 million tons of steel slabs arrive to be rolled into coils that are sent along either as hot roll or further finished and processed with high value coatings that supply significant and sophisticated supply chains, automotive being one of them, right across this country. So we think today's announcement is perfect for this location, and let me begin to introduce our first speaker. Je suis heureux de présenter la ministre du Travail, Filomena Tassi. Minister Tassi was born in Hamilton. She's the daughter of a proud steelworker. She was a corporate lawyer for 6 years, and then a high school chaplain in Hamilton for 20 years before her election as Member of Parliament in 2015. She then served as Deputy Government Whip, and I think a very important point, and Canada's first Minister of Seniors. Please welcome Minister Tassi to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thanks, Tony, for that kind introduction, and as well for beginning with the land acknowledgement. Very important. So look, friends, it's a fantastic day. I want to begin by thanking you for taking the time to join us and my cabinet colleagues. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, fantastic to have you back in Hamilton. Minister François-Philippe Champagne, again, back to Hamilton, always a delight to welcome you. My friend Minister Karina Gould, who I work very closely with on all things Hamilton and Burlington, great to have you here. Parliamentary Secretary Ali Assassi is here, there he is there, Ali. MP Bob Brattina joining us today. And also very pleased to be joined by Aditya Mittal, who's going to join us virtually, CEO of ArcelorMittal, and Ron Bedard, CEO of ArcelorMittal Dofasco. Thank you. And of course, my good friend Tony Valeri and Sean, who are here with us today. This is fantastic. So let me begin by saying this is a historic day for Hamilton, a transformational day. The investment we are making has the potential to change our city permanently, making us more innovative and our air cleaner. I've lived in Hamilton all my life. I was born and raised here. The steel industry was a very big part of my life. In fact, almost my entire family worked right here at Dofasco at some point, including myself. And the story's not unique to me. It's a common Hamilton family story. I have so many good memories, from Christmas parties to the suggestion box campaign. And the Christmas party I remember, standing there with my ticket, spending about an hour deciding what amazing toy I was going to pick with that ticket that I had. I can say that Dofasco truly was like family to me, offering support to students who are trying to make their way through school. They did that for me and for each of my siblings. And in fact, where I stand, right behind me is where I was a coil checker and checked those coils. The one putting the numbers on so that the crane driver knew where to put the coil, and my sister was the crane driver. So it just demonstrates of how, this is just, I have to say that the support that ArcelorMittal Dofasco has offered to Hamiltonians is fantastic. And I want to say that my memories here are absolutely about the people. The slogan, Dofasco slogan, our product is steel, our strength is people, I can't agree more. The workers, absolutely fantastic. In fact, when I remember my days as a summer student, trying to adjust to the 12-hour shifts, which my system had a very hard time doing, those men that I worked with, they were all men, took me in, helped me, and cared for me, and helped me find my way every step of the way. So, and that's what we are about here today. These investments are really about people, because Hamilton's workers and their families want to bring us to a better place. They want progress. We're all doing our best to build a future that we will be proud of and leave as a legacy to our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. Our government shares these values. After our election in 2015, Canada has shown global leadership in fighting climate change, which is the fight of our lives. I know locally this is an extremely important issue. In fact, yesterday I had a demonstration in front of my office, which included people who I reach out to in terms of getting input on what we can do to combat climate change. And you know what they're asking? They're asking us to do more. And that is exactly what we are doing here today. The steelmaking process presents us with an opportunity to achieve both our economic and our climate goals. However, as with any emerging industry trend, our window of opportunity to strike is short. When I saw the opportunity to work with ArcelorMittal Dofasco to make massive change happen, I knew it was time to seize the day. I've worked very closely with both Tony and Sean, who are both like-minded in this and who see potential for Hamilton to be a world leader. ArcelorMittal Dofasco is taking up the torch, committing to unprecedented investments together with the government to fight climate change. I am so proud that Hamilton is the community in which they have chosen to launch this project. My cabinet colleagues got excited about the prospect of such transformational change and have worked very hard to make this happen. And so I am in deep gratitude to my cabinet colleagues. And here we are. So I don't want to keep the good news from you for much longer. Just allow me a quick moment to introduce my friend, Minister Champagne, and then he will share the details of this transformational investment. As a businessman, lawyer, and international trade specialist, Minister Champagne gained more than 20 years' experience at large international companies in Europe, particularly in the fields of energy, engineering, and innovation. On a personal note, I can say that he has been a wonderful colleague and friend to me and all of us in Cabinet and in caucus. This isn't his first visit to Hamilton, and I know it's not going to be his last. I deeply appreciate his support, his energy, his dedication, his enthusiasm, and yes, also his compassion and kindness. I know that François-Philippe commits to investments that will make a real difference, and the fact that he has convened us all here is a testament to his ability to recognize opportunities and to work collaboratively to make them happen. This, together with ArcelorMittal Dofasco's commitment to fight climate change and innovate to create good jobs, is what brings us here today. So now, over to you, my friend, François-Philippe.
Good morning, everyone. I can feel the energy in the room already. Bonjour tout le monde. What a pleasure to be back in Hamilton this morning, and thank you for the very, very kind words, Filomena. It is indeed a true privilege to be back, and I just want to start with a special greeting to the workers that I met this morning that have welcomed us so warmly. It is really thanks to your knowledge, thanks to your know-how, thanks to your expertise that we are gathered here today. And I really want to acknowledge you, and I would even start by applauding you because the talent that you have brought the investment possible today. It's all about you today. So I'm really, really proud to be here with you. And I keep repeating, and my cabinet colleagues would have heard me say that many times, it is talent which attracts investment. And you've said it, Filomena, there's a lot of talent here. We met many of you today, and we could not be more proud as cabinet colleagues to be here with you today. And I want to make sure that we can secure the presence of ArcelorMittal for decades to come, and this was the announcement is all about this morning. I also want to say special greetings to Aditya Mittal, which I see on the screen. Aditya, I would say, from the very first conversation we had, you understood and share our vision for green steelmaking. And I just want to say thank you, my friend. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for believing in us. From the very first call, you understood that we could make a difference together, and I want to acknowledge that I would say, 19 text message further, we are here today to make this happen this morning. So thank you, Aditya, for your passion and your vision in making this possible. To Sean Donnelly, which is just in front of me, dear Sean, thank you for your leadership and thanking for taking my calls at pretty odd hour of the day, but your dedication and leadership allowed us to secure the Fasco's operation and the jobs for decades to come, and I think we all owe you a great deal of gratitude for your leadership. So thank you, Sean, for being there. You have been a steadfast ally from day one. And to Ron, get ready to get calls at odd hours as well, because we have other plans, and we're glad to see you to take the helm of Arcelor, the Fasco, and we're going to be working in the journey together. And to my dear colleagues and friends, and I would say Minister Tassi, Minister Freeland, and Minister Gould, it's an honor and privilege to be here with you today. I would say, Filomena, thank you for being such an ally, a champion, and advocate from day one. At every step of the way, you were with me and the team to make sure that this would happen. And I just want to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And also, I think that at every step of the way, you had the concern of the workers. And that's what was making this possible today. So thank you for that. And to Minister Gould and Minister Tassi, I can only say, oh boy, you have powerful voices at Cabinet to make sure that things happen in the Hamilton and Niagara region. So thank you, dear colleagues, for being here and making sure that we invest and we see a future for the region and for still making. And to my dear colleague, Minister Freeland. Minister Freeland, you, in the last budget, you charted a course. You guided this country in one of the worst economic situation that we had to manage in a century. You build a foundation for an economic recovery around making sure that it would be around jobs, around growth, and around the environment. And I'm proud to say that today we are delivering, Madam Minister, and we're building the future together. So it's a real privilege and honor to be with you. Thank you for your extraordinary leadership in very, very challenging time. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, I am very pleased to be here today. I'm very pleased because it's a great day for Hamilton, it's a great day for the steel workers, and it's a great day for our environment. We're making a difference today. And as we say, as we are slowly but surely getting out of the pandemic, my colleagues and I are laser focused on laying the groundwork for the economic recovery. And in 2021, I'm sure you would agree that that clearly means a green recovery. That's what the markets are looking for. That's what customers are demanding. And that's what we as a government want to support. Just like the pandemic upended our entire way of life and our economy, the climate crisis is an existential threat for all of us. And I believe that science, technology, and innovation will provide us the breakthrough to succeed, just like we did with the vaccine to stop the spread of COVID-19. Mais pour réussir, on doit s'attaquer à la crise climatique avec la même vigueur, la même ingéniosité et le même degré de solidarité que nous avons tous fait preuve durant la COVID-19. That's the approach that our government has chosen: support our industry through this crisis, make Canada a global leader in the clean economy of the future, and create good Canadian jobs, not just for today, but for the long term. That's our vision, ladies and gentlemen, and the vision is only good when it's paired with immediate strategic action, and I think this morning is a very good example of that. I believe, and I'm sure you believe, because if we're all here together, that still represent a tremendous opportunity for our country in the forward if we're looking at decades to come. For decades, it has been the economic backbone of communities like Hamilton. You said it well, Minister Tassi. And Canada's greatest cities and industry were built on Canadian steel. Steel is not going to go anywhere. We're going to need it for a long, long, long time. In our bridges, in our school, and in our skyscrapers. But the world's steel industry also emits 7% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, equal to the global aviation shipping, and chemical emissions combined. So I think you would agree with me, we needed to take action. That this morning is about taking action to make sure that we have the steel industry of the future right here in Hamilton, right here in Ontario, right here in Canada. Thank you. The good thing, the very good thing is that there are producers like ArcelorMittal which have a plan towards greener steel. And we're doing our part today to unlock that very, very important investment. So today, on behalf of the Government of Canada and all of you as Canadians, and I'm pleased to announce an investment of up to $400 million to support the operations and the workers of the Dofasco so as they transition to green steel making. This is really, really historic in the history of Hamilton, in the history of the Dofasco, and I would say in the history of our country. Donc aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir d'annoncer au nom de mes collègues et du gouvernement du Canada que nous allons faire un investissement pour atteindre 400 millions de dollars pour soutenir les opérations et les travailleurs de Dofasco dans leur transition vers la fabrication de l'aluminium vert. Ladies and gentlemen, this retrofit is historic. The retrofitting of this site is really going to be historic, and the adoption of state-of-the-art electric arc furnace steelmaking represent one of the major steps down the path towards a net zero future. Once completed, the competitiveness of this facility will be solidified for decades to come and will secure the presence of ArcelorMittal presence in Hamilton for generations to come. And I think that's the most important message for the workers, for their families, and for all the people of Hamilton this morning. But there's more good news. There's more good news. Because this morning, this is a real game changer for the environment. Imagine, this project alone is expected to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 3 million metric tons per year once the project is completed. This, ladies and gentlemen, to put it in layman's terms, like I would understand better, is the equivalent of taking nearly 1 million cars off the street. It's the equivalent of taking all the cars off the street of Toronto. And together with the Algoma Steel announcement we made a couple of weeks ago, the two products together will reduce greenhouse gas emission by 6 million tons. And if you compare that, that is the equivalent to taking more than 1.8 million cars off the road, or all the cars that you find in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. That's what we're doing today. That's what the future is going to look like. This is truly historic. This is really about taking immediate strategic action for a long-term future for our kids and our grandkids. And over the next 8 years, there's also good news for the construction workers. This project will create as many as 2,500 good construction jobs to eventually build this large facility, and will secure thousands of jobs for the ArcelorMittal employees for generations to come. So my friend, this is an historic investment. It's good news for the steel workers. It is good news for the economic recovery of the Hamilton-Niagara region. I'm sure you would agree, Madam Finance Minister. And it's good news for our environment. So in conclusion, let's seize the moment. Let's be ambitious as we have always been as Canadians. And let's make the Dofasco in Canada leaders in the steel of the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to introduce. So I am happy to introduce I thought we would have Tony coming back on the podium, but ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce someone who has made a difference for the steel workers in fighting, and in the last time when we had tariff, in fighting today to give us the means of our ambition, the Right Honorable Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada. Deputy Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Let me start by acknowledging that we're here today on the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. And thank you very much, François-Philippe, for your introduction, but above all, for your very hard work. François-Philippe has really been, absolutely indefatigable in his pursuit of this particular deal, and I'm grateful to him. I also want to thank Filomena Tassi, who is, as you guys have heard, I think she has Hamilton Steel in her blood, and she is such a fighter for Hamilton and her community around the cabinet table and everywhere else. I am so glad to be here with my colleague Corinna Gould, a Hamilton neighbor and someone else who fights really, really hard for this community. And of course, it is great to see my colleagues, Bob and Ali, here as well. But I have to say, the people I am the happiest to see today are the people of Dofasco and the steel workers here. I really feel that we all bonded during the 232 tariff fight. And I just want to thank you so much. With hindsight, it seems obvious that taking a tough stand, imposing retaliatory tariffs, that was the right thing to do, because it worked and we won. But at the time and in the middle of it, it wasn't so obvious. And people here know that we were all under tremendous pressure to compromise. We were under tremendous pressure to accept a quota deal. I knew that was the wrong thing because I didn't want to permanently limit your future. And I want to thank you guys for trusting us, for trusting your government, for working with us, and fighting together for the long term. So thank you so much. And you know what? I think we can really all be proud that we hung in there, that we won, and that's one of the reasons that we are able to move forward today and make another announcement, another investment in building a strong and resilient Canadian steel industry that will be internationally competitive in the 21st century low carbon economy. We are at a pivotal moment in the world economy right now. The green transition is a reality. It's happening. And the question for Canada is, are we prepared to make the investments we need to make to be world-beating in that 21st century green economy? The answer that we're giving here today at Dofasco in Hamilton is yes. We absolutely are. We have what it takes, and we are committed to do what it takes for Canada to be at the cutting edge. And I'm so proud of all of you and so grateful to you for that. Depuis le mois d'octobre, notre gouvernement s'est engagé à investir plus de 53 milliards de dollars dans une relance verte qui investit dans des technologies propres de pointe et dans la réduction d'émissions. Cela inclut un investissement de 8 milliards de dollars dans l'accélérateur Net Zero pour que le Canada puisse investir dans des projets qui accélèrent notre transformation industrielle verte. L'investissement de 400 millions de dollars annoncé aujourd'hui est un exemple concret de ce fonds à l'œuvre. So, since last October, our government has committed $53 billion towards our country's green recovery, investing in world-leading clean technologies and reducing emissions. That investment includes $8 billion for the Net Zero Accelerator. It's keeping François-Philippe very busy, so that Canada has the money to invest in projects that can accelerate our country's green industrial transformation. And today's $400 million investment is a tangible, concrete example of this fund, of this money at work. The Net Zero Accelerator is about making sure that Canada will be at the cutting edge of the global green wave of investment and growth. Because the reality is, we have no choice. Either we go green or we will not be competitive. So this investment is about protecting good middle-class jobs today and about being sure that we have the jobs of the future. It is about ensuring that the goods Canada produces, the fantastic steel we export, is competitive in the global economy. And it's about ensuring that we reach our goal of net zero emissions by 2050 and build a healthy environment with clean air for all of our children. Just this month, the Net Zero Accelerator has supported clean innovation at 2 steel giants, here at Dofasco today and at Algoma. These investments, as François-Philippe has described, will result in really significant emissions reduction, an estimated reduction of 1% of Canada's entire emissions output. This is an investment that supports the planet. It's an investment that supports Canada's international competitiveness, and it is an investment that supports you guys, our great steelworkers. So it's a personal privilege and kind of an emotional moment for me to be here today and to be part of this investment and real guarantee of your future. I have some further news to share about our economy and our economic recovery. Canada's economy is showing very strong signs of recovery, and the economic growth projections continue to be revised upward, including this week by the IMF. Canada leads the world in vaccination, and thank you very much, Dofasco, for the effort you've made there. I'm really grateful. And we now have enough vaccines in Canada for every single eligible Canadian to get 2 doses. I really want to emphasize this. You know, I'm speaking to you as a mother whose kids are going to go back to school in September. And to do that safely, we know everyone who can get vaccinated has to get vaccinated. Everyone in my family has had 2 doses, except for my son, who's 11. He turns 12 over the weekend. He is celebrating by getting his first dose. But I'm also talking to everyone here at Dofasco and across the country as your finance minister. The single most important economic policy in Canada today is for everyone who can get vaccinated to go out and get vaccinated. We have done tremendously well, but there's still that last mile to go. And I would just like to encourage everyone here, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family members. If there's someone in your community, in your circle, who hasn't been vaccinated yet, talk to them and really encourage them to do it. This is how we can take care of each other and ourselves, and it is truly the best investment we can make as a country. So please, let's get it done. Now, in the April budget, our government recognized that the economic and public health situation was dynamic and frankly unpredictable. And so we made sure that we had the flexibility to extend business and income supports further into the fall if needed. The budget committed to extend those supports to September 25th, and we said we would be monitoring the situation. Now, we all know that it took us a little longer to fight back the third wave of COVID than we had expected. Here in Ontario, we only entered this third stage of reopening on July 16th. Public health guidelines still require many businesses to operate at reduced capacity. And hard-hit small businesses like restaurants, music venues, tour operators, and the workers who rely on those jobs are just starting to get back on their feet. And I know all of us are watching carefully the Delta variant and are concerned about that. From the government's perspective, it is essential to do everything we can to be sure the country's economic recovery is fast and robust and that no one is left behind. So today, I'm announcing that we are extending the wage and rent subsidies and lockdown support until October 23rd of this fall. And we are increasing the planned wage and rent subsidy rates for the period of August 29th to September 25th. These support measures have been a lifeline for millions of workers and for businesses across the country. I've been traveling recently now that we're allowed to do that, and it's been very moving for me to hear from people who run a small restaurant in a small community saying to me, I would have had to close my business and fire everyone who works here without this support. And I've heard that story dozens of times. With this extension, we are making sure that Canadian businesses, particularly small businesses, have the support they need to be sure that we have a strong and full and robust recovery. We also know that the ongoing reality of recovering from, as François-Philippe said, the deepest recession since the Great Depression, the reality that COVID is still around, means that some workers have not been able to go back to their jobs yet. So we're extending the Canada Recovery Benefit, the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit, and the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit until October 23rd at current rates, and increasing the maximum number of weeks available under the Canada Recovery Benefit for an additional 4 weeks, for a total of 54 weeks. These additional weeks will also be available to those who have exhausted their employment insurance benefits. J'ai le plaisir d'annoncer aujourd'hui que nous prolongeons la subvention salariale, la subvention pour le loyer et la mesure de soutien en cas de confinement jusqu'au 23 octobre. Nous augmentons également les taux des subventions salariales et pour le loyer et la mesure de soutien en cas de confinement pour la période de 29 août au 25 septembre. Ces mesures de soutien ont été une bouée de sauvetage pour des millions de travailleurs dans les entreprises de tout le pays. Et cette prolongation assurera qu'ils continuent de recevoir le soutien dont ils ont besoin pour une relance solide. Nous savons également que les réalités actuelles de la pandémie ont fait que certains travailleurs n'ont pas pu reprendre leur travail. Nous prolongeons donc également la prestation canadienne de la relance économique, la prestation canadienne de la relance économique pour proches aidants et la prestation canadienne de maladie pour la relance économique jusqu'au 23 octobre au taux actuel. De plus, nous augmentons le nombre maximal de semaines admissibles à la prestation canadienne de la relance économique de 4 semaines pour un total de 54 semaines. Les personnes qui ont épuisé leur prestation d'assurance-emploi pourront aussi profiter de ces semaines additionnelles. Canadian workers always, always, always inspire me with their ingenuity and their resilience. When faced with illegal tariffs, you guys, the steelworkers of Hamilton, stood strong. During the pandemic, you kept going. And frontline workers, essential workers, healthcare workers across our country kept working hard. They kept our country going, and they kept COVID at bay. I am so grateful to Canadians for your resilience in the face of COVID and in the face of the COVID recession. Our country is now coming roaring back, and these extra measures will help ensure that our recovery is strong, swift, and robust. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me. And I will now turn it over to Aditya Mittal, who I first met when he was a young business guy and I was a young financial journalist. So Aditya, it's very nice to see you virtually, and we all look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. I hope you guys can hear me. A wave would be helpful. Okay, I can see Mr. Champagne giving us up. Deputy Prime Minister Freeland, Minister Tassi, Minister Gold, ladies and gentlemen, members of the ArcelorMittal team, good morning. It is a great pleasure to be speaking to you on such an important day for ArcelorMittal Tasco, and indeed for the ArcelorMittal Group. I'm sad that I can't be there in person, but equally grateful for the technology which enables me to be with you all virtually. I would like to start by expressing my special thanks to François-Philippe, who I've had the pleasure of working closely to make this a reality. After 19 text messages, as you reminded me, some in the middle of the night, multiple video conferences, and it has been really nice to connect with you after so long. And I appreciate your energy and your steadfast focus and getting this done in record time. So a big thank you from all of us. Also to Chrystia Freeland. Thank you very much for your support today. It's very nice to connect with you after so long. I remember when we first met very fondly. And it's phenomenal that our paths have crossed in this manner. I also want to thank you for your passionate support for Canadian manufacturing industry and the 232 tariffs. I think it's no small feat. I'm presently in London, unfortunately, as you know, and Europe has not made the same deal with the United States, right? There still are tariffs for European steel to enter the US. So you have achieved something remarkable, and it's great for Canadian manufacturing, for Dofasco, for our people. So big thank you to you as well. Merci for your support, as Chrystia said, because like us, you have steel in your blood. And we're very thankful for your commitment to Dofasco and the Hamilton region. I would also like to thank Sean, who I think is sitting in the front row of the audience, Tony Valerie and Ron Bedard, who have worked tirelessly on this project. And finally, thank you to other members of the Canadian government and the ArcelorMittal team, and special gratitude to all the people at ArcelorMittal Dofasco who work tirelessly every day. Thank you so much. As you heard from everyone this morning, climate change is undoubtedly the defining issue of our generation, our industry, and the world today. It is widely understood that for the world to achieve net zero by 2050, accelerating progress in this decade is vital. As we all call it, this is the make it or break it decade. And I say this after the day we published our second climate action report, which detailed our industry-leading group-wide target of a 25% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030. This target demonstrates the depth of ArcelorMittal's commitment to tackle this issue, and I know it is an issue that you're equally committed to in Canada. The project we have announced today, with the support of the Canadian government, involves an investment of 1.8 billion Canadian dollars in technology which will fast-track the decarbonization of ArcelorMittal's Dofasco operations, reducing CO2 emissions by approximately 60%. As you heard from Minister Champagne, I think this project clearly demonstrates that what is achievable when stakeholders work together on solutions to accelerate progress, and how actions can drive system-wide change and enable us to transition our industry more swiftly. As you heard, the Canadian government has taken a crucial step towards its goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2050 by releasing a climate action-based report on inward investment and the creation of new incentives for the transition to a clean energy economy. This bold step is what has enabled us to make such a transformative investment in our Hamilton plant to transition away from the blast furnace steelmaking production route to the direct reduced electric arc furnace production route, which, as you know, carries a significantly lower carbon footprint. This project is also expected to support as many as 2,500 jobs during the engineering and construction phases, and also gives us the opportunity to upskill our current employees, ensuring consistent demand for well-skilled, well-paying positions in advanced manufacturing. This will transform our organization, I have no doubt. And more importantly, it will also deliver exceptional benefits to all our stakeholders, including our customers, automotive customers, our employees, and the broader community. Projects of this scale require the support of many different partners to succeed. But government support is the most important to get such projects off the ground, and we therefore very much appreciate your willingness to provide support with investment and reforms. Today's agreement is a crucial part in ArcelorMittal's effort to progress on our decarbonization journey, but we have a long road ahead. We are determined to make zero carbon emission steelmaking a reality, and believe we can do it with the support of those here today, and start with ArcelorMittal Dofasco in Canada. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm happy to invite Ron Bedard, CEO of ArcelorMittal Dofasco, to the stage.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, Aditya. I appreciate your comments. I moved into the role of President and CEO here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco at the beginning of July, so this is my first public event. So things certainly have started on a high note. Ideally, we have an announcement like this once a year. This is truly an honor, and I'm extremely proud to be here to represent the men and women of ArcelorDofasco who design, manufacture, and deliver smart steel solutions for a better world. As I drove in early this morning, it struck me that the foundation for this project, perhaps more important than all of the tons of concrete and rebar beneath the ground here, is the work that tens of thousands of proud, hardworking Dofasco employees who have come before me have done. As an example of that, I'm a Dofasco employee 68,138. I am so pleased that a few of our colleagues could join us today, including some who are watching virtually, as Tony noted earlier. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to meet us today for this monumental announcement. I want to take a moment to reinforce our thanks to the Government of Canada, to each of you, and to your colleagues for the commitment to advanced manufacturing and accelerating the realization of low-carbon steelmaking in Canada. We truly appreciate it. I also want to thank Aditya Mittal and Mr. Mittal for their unwavering support of Dofasco and for their vision of being net zero by 2050. The project is truly extraordinary and transformative for ArcelorMittal Dofasco, for our community, and for our employees. Today's announcement is a strong show of confidence in our team and in our site, both from the ArcelorMittal Group and from the Government of Canada. The signal that it sends to Hamilton is a center of steelmaking excellence and a key part of the Canadian economy for many generations to come. This plan has taken shape over 3 years of extensive study, including benchmarking and technical assessments. And it was led under the leadership of Sean Donnelly, ArcelorMittal Dofasco's previous president and CEO. Thank you, Sean. Sean is here with us today, and I'd like to thank him and acknowledge his leadership and his vision for low-carbon steelmaking in Hamilton, and his absolute belief that we've got the best steelmakers in the entire world right here at Dofasco. Under Sean, a strategic team was formed in 2018 to explore all options for new technology that achieves maximum carbon reduction for steelmaking and enhanced production capability and quality and advanced manufacturing employment opportunities, again, for generations to come. That strategy team also joins us here today, and I'd like to acknowledge them for their hard work, thank them for their technical expertise, their tireless work, and their insight. They completed extensive benchmarking and modeling in preparing the ultimate plan for the sustainability of the environment, the company, the employees, the customers, and the community. Well done. That work brings us to today's exciting announcement and one step closer to this vision becoming a reality. I believe that the magnitude of this investment and project is unprecedented for our company and for the community, and it comes with significant outcomes for a broad range of stakeholders. As you've heard, the stats and benefits are very compelling. What is most compelling to me is the fact that the scale of this investment strengthens our steelmaking future in Hamilton for yet another generation. After 109 years, Dofasco is positioned to continue its legacy and leadership in Canadian manufacturing for decades to come. And our work to reach the goal of being carbon neutral by 2050 will continue beyond this phase of the investment. Further research is underway for future of utilization of clean technologies and materials like hydrogen, biocarbon, and carbon capture utilization and storage. The work will not end. The new direct reduced iron module will be hydrogen ready. This all supports the growth of Canada's low carbon economy. Our journey to being carbon neutral is well underway. I look forward to keeping everyone abreast of the project as we work through it with a commitment to safety and execution excellence. And I want to thank everybody for coming and participating today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Let me take my mask off here. Just some final comments before we close out the formal part of this morning. Thank you, Ron, and to all our speakers. I want to thank Minister Freeland for your economic leadership, your leadership on 232, always having our back in the steel industry. Thank you. Minister Champagne, for your dedication, focus, and your pushing aggressively to see more and more innovation in this country. We're seeing it today at ArcelorMittal Dofasco. Thank you very much for that leadership. Minister Tassi, for your ongoing voice here in Hamilton, continuing to advocate on behalf of Hamiltonians to ensure that we continue to prosper and continue to develop very effectively from an economic perspective and a social perspective. And to Minister Karina Gould, thank you for being here today, and thank you for your advocacy for the residents of Burlington. While this project is here in Hamilton, it is certainly very much an important project for our entire region. And I know sitting beside you in some of the comments that you shared, I know that you are right behind this project, have always been, and we certainly look forward to working with you very closely as we move forward. And to our global CEO, Aditya Mittal, thank you very much for joining us virtually today, and thank you for the confidence you have shown in ArcelorMittal Dofasco. I'm certain that our teams here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco are very excited, very dedicated, very motivated to begin work on the transformation of both the site and our steelmaking processes. This is a significant milestone in our journey here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco to becoming carbon neutral. It's a goal, as Aditya said earlier, it's a goal that can only be reached with collaboration, with the partnership, the strategic partnership, and we've seen that partnership here today with the Government of Canada and with perseverance, which we here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco will clearly demonstrate going forward. At this point, I would like to turn it over to media questions. Passons maintenant aux questions des médias. And Catherine Kaplinskas, from the Deputy Prime Minister's office, will be moderating and managing those questions from the floor. So thank you very much. That is the formal ending of the speeches, and we will now move to media questions. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you very much. We will be taking one question, one follow-up. Ça sera une question et une question en suivi. If there's any media on the floor, you're welcome to come to the mic right over here to ask questions.
Hello, Kelly from CH News. I'm hoping someone from Dofasco can explain as simply as possible what this green steelmaking process actually entails, how it works.
Thank you for the question. The process that we're going to use or exploring for this project is to exit our coke making strategy and our iron making strategy and move to direct reduced iron fueled by natural gas and use that in conjunction with electric arc furnaces. We have electric arc furnaces here. It'll be a wider use of electric arc furnaces going forward.
And when is the goal to have this completed by, or?
2028.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question, question.
Hello, Matthew from the Hamilton Spectator. So your release indicates that the project is contingent on funding from the provincial government as well. So is there a deadline to sort of come up with additional funding, or when can we expect the project to move ahead?
Sure, thank you very much, Matthew. As you indicated, the project has always been contingent on both levels of government contributing. I think it's not only a model that we are following here at ArcelorMittal Dofasco, but it is a global model. Strategic partners like the two levels of government in a project like this are critically important. And also our discussions with the province of Ontario are ongoing. There are very positive discussions, and we expect that we will, after this announcement, continue in that dialogue as we make progress towards ultimately what we feel would be an investment by both the federal and the provincial governments.
And just to clarify, if this goes ahead as you envision, by 2028, will there be no more use of coal in steelmaking? Like, will the coke plants shut down that you can see, and will the blast furnaces be shut off?
Yeah, so both the blast furnaces and the coke ovens would be replaced with a DRI-EAF.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no more questions on the floor. Oh, one more question from the floor, sorry.
Hi there, I'm Sarah from CBC Hamilton. I was just wondering, someone mentioned that the new electric arc furnaces would be able to accommodate hydrogen in the future. Is that correct? Can someone explain that a bit?
I can let Dofasco to say that, but what you need to realize, this is the first plant in the world to answer the initial question, to make it simple for people to understand. We're going from coal-fired to electric furnaces, but the way the design has been made, and that's why this is really cutting edge in the world. When you're talking about innovation, this is going to be the first plant in the world which will have been enabled to move to hydrogen. So we're going from blast furnace to electric furnace that we can bring hydrogen to reduce almost completely greenhouse gas emissions. So that's why I think this project, when we were saying with the Deputy Prime Minister and the management and Aditya and the management team here, the vision is over decades. You know, we were keen, and that's why we work extremely hard. We knew that there was momentum in order to transfer that to an electric furnace. But at the same time, we saw even beyond that, to say what will be the future beyond that, and the future is hydrogen. So it will be enabled to accommodate hydrogen down in the future. But I would say until now, in 2028, we're going to reduce by 3 million ton of greenhouse gas emissions. So that's a significant step. But we wanted to see even beyond that to make sure that workers would have jobs for generations to come here.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to turn to our global CEO, Aditya Mittal, as well. Aditya?
Thank you, Tony. I presume you guys can hear me because I hear my own echo. I think Minister Champagne, as always, is full of details and has perfect knowledge. So I'm very impressed that he speaks like a steelmaker already. But he's absolutely right. This is revolutionary because we're moving away from a coke-based process or coal-based process to a gas-based process. That's fundamentally what a direct reduced iron facility does. So you have the blast furnace where you put in, which is behind you at Hamilton and Dofasco, where you put in coal and iron ore, and then you melt it and you get hot metal. The DRI, you put the same iron ore, slightly more refined iron ore, but instead of coal, you inject gas, you inject natural gas. And then you get iron pellets, we call it direct reduced iron, and you put it into the electric furnace and you melt it using renewable energy. The beauty of this technology is that in the first step, you're using natural gas, because as we all know, hydrogen availability and costs are quite significant today. But when hydrogen becomes abundant in supply and costs are reasonable, we can switch this technology from natural gas directly into hydrogen, because fundamentally the principles are the same. It's a gas-based reductant. And I think that is why it is very, very important to make this transformation, because as Minister Champagne said, this is for generations. It is not just a temporary fix. This is a real solution to decarbonize our business. And the other thing I would add, which I think we should also appreciate, that this is a much more developed process than simply decarbonizing, because we're starting with iron and we're reducing iron, which implies that we can produce the highest quality steel products. And the highest quality steel products is critical because that supports the highest end customer segments. We talked about automotive, we talked about other sectors in Canada and the United States, but this enables us to remain at the highest end of the quality spectrum and simultaneously decarbonize our operations. So no compromise on the quality of steel, rather a focus on decarbonizing it, providing green steel, and being a first mover in North America and achieving this. So again, thank you for everyone's support in making this a reality. I personally also look forward to the province stepping up and hopefully we can do this project before 2028.
Okay, next question. Okay, if there's no more questions on the floor, we will now turn to the phones. Ça sera maintenant au téléphone. Because there are technical difficulties, we're just going to hold up a phone to the microphone and you'll hear the sound from journalists.
Thank you, merci. Please press star 1 at this time to ask your questions. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur le buzzer maintenant pour poser une question. And our first question is from Peter Zamonyi of CBC. Please go ahead. Your line is open. Greetings. Can anyone hear me?
Sort of. Speak loudly and clearly, please.
Try it again. Please on the line. Give it a second shot.
Okay, this is a question for Minister. This is a question for Minister Freeland. Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can. Thank you.
Are we good? Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
Can you please speak loud and clear?
Minister Freeland, yesterday he said he wanted to get a plane to Afghanistan to bring back interpreters and their families from Afghanistan. The United States planes have already landed and returned this morning with 760 people. What's preventing the government of Canada from landing a plane in Kabul immediately and landing it with Afghan interpreters?
Okay. I didn't hear the precise words in the question, but I think I got the general gist, which is a question about the Afghans who worked to support the Canadian effort in Afghanistan as interpreters and in other support roles. Let me be very clear. This is a really important issue for our government. These Afghans who worked to support the important work the Canadian government, Canadian people in uniform were doing in Afghanistan were doing very important jobs that were essential to our effort. And now many of them are in danger. We as a country have a moral responsibility towards them, and we absolutely recognize that. That's why we are working very, very hard to make it possible for people who did work for Canada, for their families, to come to Canada very, very quickly. We know that the situation is tense on the ground and fast moving, and so we are working very, very hard to do the work to understand very quickly who these people are, to identify these people, and then to very quickly bring them back to Canada. I think they are going to be great Canadians, and I think we all look forward to welcoming them here.
Okay, follow-up question.
Is there a follow-up question?
Yes, Minister, on the same subject, the U.S. is allowing Afghan interpreters and their families to finish their applications outside of Afghanistan. Why isn't Canada doing that? What's bringing them to a safe third country where Canadian government can complete their checks?
Okay, yeah, I heard that. I'm not going to go into the specifics of processing the applications. Obviously, some due diligence needs to be done to identify the people and their families who worked for Canada. But I do want to say we as a government very much recognize that there is no time to spare, that this has to happen very, very quickly, and we're committed to doing that and to putting the resources in place to identify the people who have a right to come to Canada and to get them to Canada very, very soon. And we also are working on this very closely with our partners and allies. Thanks.
Thank you. Prochaine question.
I would like to remind journalists on the line, please speak as clearly and loudly as possible. J'aimerais rappeler les journalistes sur la ligne, s'il vous plaît, soyez aussi clairs et parlez fort, s'il vous plaît, pour qu'on puisse vous comprendre. On apprécie votre compréhension.
Thank you. And we will move to the next question. Nous allons passer à la question suivante. The next question is from Brian Mullen of Global News. La question suivante est de Brian Mullen de Global News. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hi, Minister. This is a question for Minister Freeland. Minister, Israel is the first country to offer a third dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine to a citizen on a wide scale. Given the concerning rise of the Delta variant, is that something Canada should be considering?
Thank you for the question, Brian. And yes, we are very aware of Israel's decision. We actually yesterday, a number of ministers had a good conversation with Dr. Theresa Tam, our Chief Public Health Officer, about the Delta variant, about booster shots. As has been the case since the beginning of this pandemic, the Canadian response is going to be guided by science, by the advice of our medical officials, and we're going to be working, as we have done from the start, in close collaboration with provinces and territories. And I do want to take this opportunity to make another pitch for everyone who is eligible to be vaccinated to go out and get vaccinated. Truly, this is the single most important thing we can do for our health. It's the most important thing you can do to support Canada's economy and economic recovery. And the good news is doses are now abundant in Canada. We have enough vaccines for everyone who wants to get vaccinated to go out and get vaccinated.
En suivi.
Is there a follow-up question?
Yes, Minister, do you have any concerns about global vaccination efforts as some countries are struggling to even get a first vaccination dose if other countries are starting to offer a third dose?
Of course, Canada is very much aware that this is a global pandemic, and we have not only a moral responsibility, but there is also a practical reality that we need to work hard to get the whole world vaccinated. Canada is one of the leading countries in the level of our donation of vaccines, of our contribution to COVAX, and we're going to continue to do that.
Okay, we will take one more question from the phone. That'll be the last question. Une dernière question.
One more question from the phone.
Merci, thank you. And we will go with one more question, one last question from the telephone, une dernière question au téléphone. The next question is from Murad Hamedi of The Logic. Your line is now open. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking our questions. Yesterday, ArcelorMittal reported core profit for the second quarter of $5.1 billion, your highest quarter in 13 years. You're launching a $2.2 billion share buyback program. So, Mr. Mittal, why do you need a loan or grant from the Canadian government? And Minister Freeland, why are you giving him one?
Sure. Let me try and take those questions. I presume you guys can hear me? Okay, fantastic. So yes, you're right. We reported record results yesterday. This is a direct impact of the pandemic, where you saw in 2020 there were significant losses. If you look back to the steel industry over the last 10 years, the steel industry has been capital starved. It's a highly cyclical industry, so you have periods of time in which you do have high points in the cycle, and then long periods of time when you have low periods in the cycle. If you look at the specific share buyback, that's a direct result of a sale of assets in the US. So a significant portion of that is due to the proceeds of our sale of our assets called AM USA, and the proceeds we use to buy back our shares. In terms of why a partnership is important, I think fundamentally there's a shared goal, which is to decarbonize the steel business. I think if you look at the capital costs, I mean, here we spoke about 1.8 billion Canadian. The capital costs are significant, and today there's very limited return on these investments. So instead, actually, when you convert away from coal and you start using natural gas, your costs actually rise. And therefore, if we do want to accelerate decarbonization, there has to be a shared goal, a shared understanding, so that steel companies like us and others can be motivated to make that capital investment. And I think we saw this in the renewable sector, at least in Europe, where governments motivated private sector to begin investments. And as those investments materialize, you see that the cost curve comes down, the technology develops, and there's an appropriate marketplace. So I think as we transition to decarbonizing the world, such types of partnership are the way to go. Otherwise, it's very difficult to actually get a highly cyclical, capital-intensive business like steel to actually make those first steps.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Aditya, and thanks for the question. Let me just say this. You know, I have, in June and July, I attended as finance minister the G7 finance ministers meeting in London and the G20 finance ministers meeting in Italy. And I came back from those meetings more aware than ever of how competitive the global economy is, and of the fact that there is a race on in the world right now to be first and fastest in the green transition. The green transition is important for us in Canada because we want clean air, we want to support our planet, we want an environment our children and grandchildren can live in. But you know what? The green transition is also absolutely essential for the future of the Canadian economy and Canadian jobs, and to ensure that Canada is competitive. And what we are seeing around the world is the major economies, the world's leading governments are investing heavily in supporting the green transition in their own countries. We are seeing major investments by the European Union. We are seeing major investments by the Biden administration directly in supporting the green transition. The Government of Canada recognizes that we have a role to play too in supporting that green transition. You know, Aditya, he has a choice of where he's going to make investments around the world. One of the reasons he's making investments here in Hamilton is because the workers are fantastic. And Aditya, I want you to know your Canadian workers are the smartest, the most entrepreneurial, the most innovative of any workers you have anywhere in the world. And that is a real Canadian competitive advantage. But the government recognizes we need to support that green transition too. That's why we have the $8 billion in the Net Zero Accelerator. These are investments that are going to make Canada cleaner and greener. They're also investments that are keeping jobs here in Canada, that are competitive in the global economy, and that are jobs that are here for the long term. Thanks.
Follow-up?
Minister Champagne, Is funding from the Net Zero Accelerator directly tied to achieving the emissions reduction goals you've set out? Are you going to be auditing those emission reductions, and will you claw back funding if they're not met?
First of all, well, thank you for the question. And let's just add to what I think the Deputy Prime Minister provided the right frame. I recall the discussion with Aditya. We are in competition with other jurisdictions. I think I want to address this question head on. That's a question we get often, and I can assure you, and Aditya would remember in one of the text message, he reminded me that other jurisdictions wanted to attract this type of investment. So I think, as in all investment we're doing, obviously we're protecting the interests of the workers, of Canadians, of the industry, but I would say there's a role for government in the equation, whether it's the federal government, whether it's the provincial government, to make sure that we gain these investments in our country, that we build the momentum, and today is a great example of that. The other thing I would say to that is that the investment we're making is largely repayable. It's conditionally repayable, so obviously we have all the standard terms and conditions you would expect. And the Deputy Prime Minister said, well, it's thanks to the workers that we can do that. To your point, definitely we have built in all the protection that you would expect when we invest public money. We make sure that the commitments that have been made, and I see Sean Donnelly, I can refer to my discussion with Aditya, we will make sure that the commitments that have been made with respect to the reduction of the greenhouse gas emission, with respect to the co-op student, with respect to the investment in R&D, will be part of the agreement. And yes, Canadian taxpayers are protected at every step of the way.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. That concludes today's press conference. Ceci met fin à la conférence de presse d'aujourd'hui. Merci tout le monde.